The reckoning is actually haunted by Kim Porter's ghost. And I really think that 50 Cent completely missed the mark on exploring and exploiting the fact that so many people believe that Sean P. Diddy Combs is responsible for Kim Porter's death. While we can see how he was obsessed with her and wanted her as one of his prized possessions, the fact that she actually left his orbit is probably something that he never got over. Everyone loved her. She was iconic. Her elegance and her beauty was so admired. She was admired, potentially even more than Sean Combs. People saw her beauty and wondered, how did he manage to get that? Kim Porter was completely out of his league. Even as a multi-millionaire, she was still out of his league. She is one of the only women who managed to leave his orbit. But then suddenly she dies. Let's get into my notes on Kim Porter and why the silence on Kim Porter actually shows us not just patriarchal power, but how the documentary and 50 Cent himself actually sees women as disposable. The reckoning gives us all the drama, right? Everything that you want. We're so distracted by all of the awful things that Sean P. Diddy Combs, his lifestyle, all of the scary things he did, how the documentary reveals so much more about Sean Combs than anybody would have known, right? But we don't get into the fact that so many of us actually believe that he could be potentially, allegedly, possibly responsible for the death of Kim Porter. The reckoning showed us how obsessed Sean Combs was with Kim Porter from the very beginning. She was Al B. Sure's girlfriend in the early 90s, and he was just an intern at the record agency, and he was obsessed with her. He was always wanting her, and he was planning on getting her. Everybody in this video, in this documentary, kept talking about once he set his eyes on something, he was going to possess it. Kim was one of his favorite possessions, and she was the one that nobody thought he could get, and he managed to get her. She raised 3 of his children, and they were together for 13 years. Kim Porter was more than just a girlfriend. She was the ultimate pursuit for him. She was that first thing, like he talked about the first big house that he bought. She was the first thing that he could get that showed that he had come up in the industry, because she was everything that men who are seeking power want to have next to them. And that made her more than a girlfriend or a wife, because she was the validation that he needed, that he had finally made it, to get a girl completely out of his league. Yet her story is pretty much absent from the documentary. She died at 47. She allegedly told friends if anything ever happened to her to look at Puffy. And truly, her death and the timing of her death never really set right with people who loved her. But she's more like a ghost, even in the documentary. And this is exactly how men treat women in their story, as a side note. But she was more than just a side note in the P. Diddy story. The thing that we have to remember is Kim Porter was not just an innocent woman. She wasn't like Cassie. She wasn't naive. She was well seasoned in the industry. She had been there as longer than Sean Combs. She was there at the very beginning. Not only was she there, she was seasoned, she was connected, she actually had the intelligence, and she knew everything about Sean P. Diddy Combs. She knew about his violence, his ego. She probably has more secrets than anybody could ever have revealed. She knew about the other women. She likely knew about the men. She knew who he was in different aliases, and she knew about all of the money, right? She knew where the money was going and where it went. She knew the power structures behind everything that was bad boy culture. She's probably one of the only people that would have been able to see him clearly without illusion and knew every aspect of him. And he knew that she knew how much of a monster he really was. And she left him on her own free will. She got away from his orbit and out of his clutches. The fact that she left made her dangerous. And the thing that was different, I think, about Kim Porter is that she represented a prestige, right? Because he had the same pattern with all of the women that he was able to manipulate. Love bombing. He elevated them, made them feel special. He got them entangled financially. He controlled them sexually. He was volatile emotionally. He isolated them from anyone else. And when they disobeyed, they were punished. And with Kim, she likely experienced all of those things as well. She represented a prestige because of her legacy, because she was legitimate, right? Like, she was legitimate in the business. She was in there before he was. She didn't get her come up because of him. And because she was the good one, she was the one that got away. She was his showpiece that made him feel valid, and she left him. And for men like this, that's the equivalent of treason. Basically, she was rejecting everything about him, everything that she knew he was. And rejection and shitting on Sean Combs was obviously something that he could not take. He could not take that. His ego was not able to handle it. And I think that's why her story is very important in The Reckoning. That's why the absence of it feels so very loud. And it's not like they didn't make other implications that Puffy was involved in violence and murder, just not hers. The Reckoning spends so much time talking about Pac, about Biggie, the East Coast versus West Coast, all of the industry conspiracies, right? But none of them touched on the intimate partner violence, right? And it was all focused on men fighting men. Who was going to control the idea of this East Coast, West Coast, like, battle, like that male focused idea? And Kim Porter would have been around during this period of time. It's not like her presence would have been absent from the period during these rivalries developing. So it's amazing that they just left her out of the story. She was there in his bed, sharing his house. She was an intimate partner that suddenly, inexplicably died. And she's left messages saying that if something happened to her, look at him. Nobody else did. The public came up with the stories about Pac and Biggie. We derived those things from the same way people have derived what's happened to Kim. So why explore what happened between these men? And I think that talking about Kim would have impacted his reputation even more, because if we could explore what really happened to her and point more fingers towards Diddy as responsible for her death, then I think that his reputation would have been even more damaged than what this documentary does. Speaks again to the fact that men continue to protect men when it's violence against women, right? They care more about the violence against each other. But who was there more likely taking the brunt of his anger when he's, pretending in public to be neutral or to try and be supportive and Black power and blah, blah, blah? Who's he taking that out on at home? Because we know that he would hide himself and mask himself. The fact that so many Black women have been asking what happened to Kim. This documentary could have delved so much deeper into understanding, how did she really die? But obviously, this is a question that lots of Black women have been asking. And men continue to protect men when it comes to violence against women. Even in this instance, even with 50 Cent and all his, haterade towards Puff, he still protected him in this sense. Kim Porter wasn't just his partner. She was a witness. She would have witnessed so many things. And if you think that there is nobody out there who doesn't know what she witnessed, you're wrong. We all know. We know how women are. We know that her story is somewhere. It is hidden in the layers of Sean Diddy Combs and all of his lies and potential fear of other people who are afraid of him coming after them. But her story is there, and 50 Cent did not bother to try and uncover it. Kim Porter would have known the man behind all of the mythology. She knew the truth. Black women very rarely get justice narratives. How people see Black love, especially as it showed in this documentary, is violence and aggression and something that's transactionary. So it doesn't matter. The women are all the same to them. Cassie is no different than Kim, and Kim is no different than his first baby mama, and the first baby mama is no different than the last baby mama. They don't care. So many Black men miss the opportunity to give a little support to Black women. 50 Cent truly hates Puff Daddy, but he still missed this opportunity to hate on Puff Daddy and give Black women a justice narrative. One that could treat Kim Porter and what happened to her and her experience more than just a footnote in Sean Combs' love affairs and baby mamas. He deserved more investigation, and that questions should have been asked, and that the audience gets some sort of clarity on what really happened to her, or just some acknowledgement in the effort to try and say, we tried to find out what happened to Kim Porter. Did you even look to her people? Maybe there's somebody willing to tell her story if someone were to ask. Kim Porter's story is the missing piece in The Reckoning, and I don't know that we'll ever get it. I don't know if 50 Cent has more things on the cutting room floor. Maybe she'll get her own story, because I think that we all want to know her story. Bad men doing bad men things. Tupac said he was a gangster, right? Biggie, they want to play gangster in the streets, and gangsters killed gangsters, whether it's Puff Daddy, the Crips, the Bloods, whomever. Like, it doesn't matter. If you want to play gangster, it's more likely you will die a gangster's death. Even though I miss Pac, I miss his music, wish he was still here, he wanted to be a gangster and he died a gangster's death. But the truth is, Kim didn't want to die in any way. And somehow she mysteriously died from pneumonia at 47 years old. And nobody is asking a question. How somebody who is a monster and is connected to so many other people's demises, their deaths. And this woman, the closest woman to him, dies after she manages to escape his orbit and to escape his empire. And she is the only one who's there from the very beginning, who knows every secret, and where all the dead bodies might be hidden, even the ones that weren't in this documentary, like her. So many women in abusive relationships walk away, and even when they walk away, they still have not escaped the monster. Guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to having this discussion with you in the comments. So ciao for now.